Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Chris from the Chronicles of Man. And on this episode, I launch a new series called Behind the Veil. And it's with two really cool ladies, Lin and Tanya, who I feel have a ton of experience when it comes to the spiritual realm and all that comes with that entire dimension. So Behind the Veil, of course, is going to incorporate the paranormal, the whole discussion about aliens, dimensions, things of that sort. But for the most part, it's talking about how things of today's day and age don't make sense unless you incorporate that ulterior dimension, that the other realm that we don't really understand that much. And so we have a great discussion, and for the most part it kind of revolves around the whole element of good versus evil. So this kind of sets the stage for the series as we move forward, and check it out.
Through the ages, man has battled, bled, conquered, and evolved. Pioneers blazing new trails for themselves and for all they came after. They are fathers, brothers, sons, husbands, mentors, and students, a gentleman and a warrior. And now we see a new frontier, a great awakening, where mind, body, and spirit become one. This is the Chronicles of Man.
So I just got back today from San Antonio, and had an interesting night. Went to it's called the Rock Box in San Antonio. My buddy had a concert there last night, and the band's called Fire from the Gods, which for me it's always been a nice ring to it, because it's the element of the unknown and kind of what is up there and what's coming down. But we've always had a debate. The lead singer. He's a good friend of mine, and we go back and forth on just topics of like what he believes in, and he knows kind of where I stand when it comes to, God and the afterlife, Jesus Christ. And so last night though, it was a great crowd. And you know how when you go to concerts, it's got like people say, "Oh, it was a religious experience." And for the most part, his music is pretty uplifting. But then we have a disconnect when it comes to like, keeps trying to tell me how we have God inside us, and I'm like, I agree, but he wants to explain it to me where he says, and it's almost like, for me it's almost what's that word when you blasphemy. One of his shirts is "In Us We Trust," and I'm like, no, we don't replace God, bro. That's not where we're going with this. It's the Creator, and so his message is to unite people and to be higher, to be a more sentient being here on earth and be more cautious of of your neighbors. But then the disconnect is the whole, just not having that closure of, okay, how this thing really is operating. Like, why are we here? What is this all about? How is this working to where if you're not cognizant that there is higher beings, then I think you're kind of walking a path of danger. You're walking out there with no gear on because you're not the cognizance. It's the situation awareness that, damn, there's bullets flying by my head and I had no idea. You're just acting as if there's really no threat to you, to your family. So I guess I get my question, and that's where I want to start this series called Behind the Veil, because it's looking at your content. And I do a lot of research. I just go to YouTube and I just start poking around for stuff that's in my head. And it led me to you two ladies. And it seems to me like you've got a good handle on, how the supernatural works and the semantics of it, so that people are more equipped when it comes to how this, and I hate saying the game, but how this game is played, how this war is being fought, so that people aren't walking around just a possible casualty, if that makes any sense. But let me ask you this. I guess I'll start with Lynn and then you, Tanya. But what's been your awakening experience into the supernatural?
Well, I've always communicated with God like my whole life. And I knew that's what it was, right? Because I basically was raised by the Bible. My mom, I didn't have a good relationship with my mom. My dad wasn't around. And so I really just focused on what Jesus did. So I read my Bible every day, communicated with God and Jesus. That was like my upbringing was, this is the way I'm supposed to live. And I would communicate with God. I would ask questions. I always felt like I was on this path. And I've always got really obvious answers just out of nowhere. And it wasn't until 2016 when I had my Kundalini, and then all of everything, like my abilities flooded in. It was a rude awakening in ways, because physically I felt like I'd been like hit by a train energetically, and had to go and figure out what that was all about. I was getting Archangel Michael coming in. I was getting God like loudly, in ways that I'd never gotten before. I was getting very clear guidance in a lot of different ways. And I started researching through the community, what is Kundalini, what's happening to me. And then I moved into, okay, this is my path. This is my soul path. And just started working my Michael in my face, constantly telling me, do this, do this, do this. And I was moved out of the corporate world into a spiritual path. And I just basically just researched the shit out of my abilities and basically followed my guidance. And what I found was that everything I was getting from Michael was way more efficient and way more accurate than all the stuff I was finding out in the community. So it ended up being where all of my guidance came from God. I call them team: God, Archangel Michael, Jesus, but we have our host of angels, that I would get my guidance from him and then find evidence that backed it up later on. So that kind of became the way I moved into all this.
When you say evidence later on, you were getting direct confirmation that what you were experiencing was real.
Yep. Yep. So that's, and then, I ended up, Michael said, get the message out. Here's what people need to hear. People that are going through the same thing as you, they're all over the world. Here's what they're looking for. Here's what they're experiencing. It's all the same thing. And
I've been hearing too.
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing this podcast. That's why I've been recording, and it's an evolution of process, because it started with just audio, then slowly it was just building the equipment. But it was the whole idea of for what just don't keep it to yourself, because what good is that? How are you helping the people around you, and where we're at?
And this is stuff too that you just can't find anywhere. And it's not something that you're coming up with yourself. It's stuff you've never heard before. It's like so completely out there, but it makes sense. And you're like, holy shit. It's like scraping off those extra layers of your consciousness. And it's like kind of opening up this box and scraping all the human programming and everything you've been taught that isn't true. And it's an awareness. It's like, everything in the universe, everything in the world is starting to make sense.
Yeah.
In a way that it hasn't before. So it's definitely not for me, and everybody's experiencing it. That's going through.
And when did you meet Tanya? Tanya, when did you meet Lynn? How'd that come about?
Oh Lord, that was fun. That's a fun story. It was actually back in 2017, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 2017, I was having some issues with some dark beings that were kind of plaguing me, and they were plaguing me for quite a while. And it was crazy. I had went to this other healer, and she was assisting me with, spiritual gifts and all these different kinds of things. But I had set an appointment with her because this demon had was laying in my bed one night. I always prayed to Archangel Michael. I'm like, come protect me, blah, blah, blah. So I would always see him wrap his wings around my bed, always. This particular night I didn't, and I fell asleep. But I woke up to being held down, and there was a demon growling in my face. And then on the other side of me, I heard another one hissing. And I lay there, and of course, I'm sitting here and I'm praying. And I couldn't move. I still couldn't move.
Was it paralysis from fear or literal paralysis?
The second part may have been actual fear paralysis, but when I first woke up, they were holding me down. Like there was no doubt.
I've heard of those stories.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So I ended up, my daughter was sleeping in the next room. And finally I had gotten out, and I just knew. that it was going for my child next. That pissed me off. So I go in there and I'm kind of sitting on my child's
How old was your
bed,
daughter
and
at the time?
she's usually 16. Yeah, 16 at the time. It's kind of hard for me to but anyway, but she was actually, she wouldn't wake up. She did not wake up. I went and
Wow.
sat down in her bed, and I'm sitting there and I'm staring at her closet. I'm like, I know you're in there. I know you're in there.
Always in the
Not
closet for some
come
reason.
out.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, I think it's just an easier place for them to hide. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's kind of dark. Nobody pretty much goes in there very much. But anyway, um, so I ended up calling in Michael, and Michael took care of it. I ended up going back to bed. I woke her up. I was like shaking her, like, get up and come get in bed with me. It was the only way I was going to get sleep that night. Anyway, so I had actually called this or set an appointment with this healer. And for 30-45 minutes, we tried to connect, and it wouldn't happen. And she's like, oh, I guess that
Talking about
it's not
from Zoom
interested.
for the
Yes,
phone? Okay.
yes. It was both, actually. There was multiple ways we tried.
And they kept
And she's like, I guess
not working? Technical difficulties?
technical difficulties. It was freezing. It just wasn't working. And I was like, crap. So then she's like, I guess it's not meant for us to meet. And I'm like sitting here panicking. I'm like, a fucking demon just held me down. Pardon me. But a demon just held me down in my bed. And you're telling me?
Mm-hmm.
So the next day I'm flipping through YouTube and I found one of Lynn's videos. And I think it was one she hadn't put up. It wasn't very long that she had actually put it up like hours before. And I watched it, and it was her dark video that she was doing with another partner she had. And I was like, she knows what she's doing. She knows. So I immediately went in, and I was surprised that I could get an appointment with her so quickly. But we ended up having the same issue. What, about 30 minutes?
Mhm.
And I was terrified. I'm like, Lynn, please help me. Please do not give up on me, kind of thing. Lynn's like, I'm used to this. And I'm like, good.
What that does.
We were having the same issue. My cat was running around like something was chasing her. I'm just like,
And so, do you live in an old part of like an old town? Is it an old city? Like, you think it was land related, personal related? Is it
well,
following your energy?
I've always been sensitive to spirits, even
Yep,
since
me
I was
too.
little. I could always hear them. I had a telepathic connection. People call that mediumship. But um, at one point in my life, I kind of suppressed it. I didn't want it. It was too much. I was weird, blah, blah, blah. Well, this particular house, when I moved into it, because it was probably like a year and a half before all this dark stuff started happening to me. When I moved in there was nothing. I could not feel a spirit anywhere. Then all of a sudden, as my spiritual journey progressed, more and more came in. But then I started getting hit by dark. I don't even know where they came from. At the time, I was just kind of like, I don't know what's happening, but
In hindsight,
here they
2020,
come.
has it become more clear when you look back where it came from?
Oh yeah, that's
Oh yeah,
that's what we specialize in now.
Gotcha.
definitely. Well, even back then when I was little, I had a witch that would talk to me telepathically. She died like right behind my mom's.
So you had a witch
child.
too, that you would.
Her
'Cause
name was
remember,
Isabella.
that's what
Yeah.
when I was a kid, there was some witch that was always upside down in my room, and I entered this different. Anyways, so you had an experience where there
I
was
never
like some.
saw her. She talked. Yeah.
See, that's so weird.
I used to actually go back exploring in the woods. I think that's how she kind of glommed onto me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I could hear her. But then it was kind of like she started doing some questionable things. So I kind of suppressed that telepathy down. I was like, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Go away. But when I moved into this house, certain things started happening. But at first it was just spirits that were coming around. And I'm like, this is interesting. But then of course it changed as my spiritual journey changed. All the activity changed.
You always do.
So,
Yeah.
Sorry.
It always does. It's a progression.
Oh
It
yeah,
seems.
yeah.
They invite their friends.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. We're lighthouses and they're the bugs. So the lighter we get, the more they flock, or they
Exactly.
yeah, there's reasons.
So she was able to help you with that situation?
It was so amazing. She taught me, what was it, one actual clearing. She's like, here, until we can get this stuff done, then here, you take this, you do this tonight. And I was like, okay. I'm kind of like, I'm still in the place where I'm like, I don't know, but okay. And Michael's like, you can do this, because I was hearing Michael at this point, and I was seeing him, communicating with him a little bit. And he's like, I'm just like, I trust her. I'm just going to do this. Anything is better than what I had.
Wow.
So I did it. I told her, I was like, immediately it stopped. And it was funny because I ended up having that same session with the healer before. And she's like, there are demons all around you. She said, they're knocking, but they can't get in. That was validation that the shit Lynn was giving me.
You know what that reminds me of, visually speaking? Have you seen that movie Constantine?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of got that visual of when he's in the mirror. He kind of put the mirror in front of him and he entered into the different dimension, whatever it is. Sometimes I get shortness of breath, so forgive me if I'm like having to catch my breath for some reason. It's I don't know if it's asthma or what, but I've had it my whole life. But so and this goes to what I was describing when we were chatting yesterday, that my whole life I've been a very sensitive person. Not sensitive where I cry everything, but I can sense energy in the room, and I've been that way since I was a kid. But when now looking back, ever since I was born, I was astral projecting, just my whole life, and I always thought they were just dreams. And because in retrospect, it became such a part of my life that it was just natural to me that I'm like, oh, I'm having this dream again. But it was to the point where when I got older, I'm like, but hold on, I can control everything. I could literally fly around and I can, visit I used to love my grandma when I was a kid, but my grandma and play with her nose, and then just kind of laugh, and I'd be giggling the whole time, and then I would just jump on my sofa from like one to the other, and I'd be like, this is so cool. But I got so used to it that one day I looked up and I'm like, I wonder, and I just, as I thought of it and I went up, I could hear as I hit the ceiling, it went, and then it was up above so it was like there's energy that I was going through, and I looked down at the house and I'm like, did that just happen? Because I heard it. It wasn't like just where I thought I was dreaming. And so I got to the point, I'm from Helotes, and I actually go to Helotes. I'm like, let me go see if I can go check out the shopping center. So as soon as I thought about it, I was there at the shopping center, and I could see the lights, and it was at night, and you could see like in detail, like, this is kind of cool. And then as I got more confident, one night I'm like, so I looked at the ceiling, and I looked up, I'm like, I wonder what it's like in there. And I just, as soon as I thought about it, I was like, and I'm like looking like from Hubble telescope, like all these colors, and I'm like, this is pretty cool. And as I'm there and I see how far away I was, I got scared, like, oh my God, and came back and in my body, and like, oh my, what was going on, and just freaked me out. And so when I realized that I was that far away, and then I was young, I was probably like 8 or 9 years old when I was doing all that stuff. And then but to see during that time period, I was also getting attacked when I was asleep at night, and what had happened, kind of like what you experienced, but I was probably 6 or 7, and I was sleeping on the couch, but my face was facing, I don't know, we had family visiting from out of town, I think, and so I had to sleep on the sofa that time. And so my face was facing the back of the couch, and I remember I felt breathing on the back of my neck, and I was like, that's strange. What is that? And then he went, Chris. It's like, that's my name. And they said, Chris. So then pretty soon I kept on breathing, but the more I breathed, it got to the point where he was going, Chris, like this, like the whole growl, you could see the voice that I heard. I could see the teeth, the throat. I could see detail what it was. And so then I stopped breathing. It's like, I'm not going to breathe. And so I started to slowly slip because he wasn't yelling anymore. But fear is about to kill me because of my own fear. to the point where I got mad. And even though I saw this big reptile, probably face was probably like 2 feet. In my head, it was a 2 feet wide face. I just went around, I turned around like, screw you. I'm like, I'm not going to die. And I was going to hit it with my arm, and I did, but I didn't hit it. But nothing was there. And so I'm awake and I'm breathing, like barely like all lightheaded. But that experience happened like maybe 3 or 4 times more. And I started telling my mom, like, hey, I need prayers. And she started teaching me the Our Father. Well, since I was a kid, I'd say the Our Father every night. Like clockwork. Just say the Our Father. And I've taught my son to do the same thing. And it's been a staple on the foundation, so that as I've come into times where we've all experienced, this whole world is completely sold to Satan. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Everybody's a Satanist.
Yeah.
You know? And it's in your face. Like, they don't care anymore. They're just all out with it.
Well,
But
it's kind of one of those, it's kind of like the fine print on a contract.
yeah.
That's the reason that it's all out there. You know, they're just like, here, we told you, you can't say that we didn't.
No, I get that.
I think what's dangerous to me, which really bothers me, and I almost wanted to post about it today, is that you've got all these people that are Satanists, but they're out there talking about God. And they're like, oh, but I'm supposed to move into this purpose with God, or I'm doing this for God, and I'm doing God's work. And I'm like, well, which God are you talking to? Which God are you actually following? Because Satan and Lucifer think they're gods. And I know these people are Satanists or Luciferian, or they're involved in all of this child trafficking, whatever, but they're out there presenting like they're praying to a God. And I'm like, you're praying to a God, but not the Holy Father God.
Correct.
So it's really deceptive. It's
Well,
like people are following them, and then
I'm going to
they
get
don't
$1.
even realize what they're dealing with.
Well, he's doing that. I gotta close it.
Yeah, and you know what I'm talking about, right? It's pretty much in your face. But like, you know, the whole
Oh yeah.
and in right next to it, it says, "In God we trust."
Yeah.
So to the normal mind, it's like, oh, they're talking about God. But I mean, when you look at that, that is the eye of Horus. That's the spirit of Lucifer. That is not, and it's the, you know, the 13 levels of the pyramid, 13 families, that the new order of the ages, all Latin, you know, our steps are before something, Annuit, Coptus. But these people, you know, they own this whole Federal Reserve. This, and, you know, what does it say? It's a Federal Reserve note. This note is legal tender. I mean, the problem is that people think that we just live in a very physical world where, you know, A is B and C and D, and that everything is just semantics of banking protocols and health protocols and healthcare. And if you go to the hospital, but everything behind it, what was created, you know, the whole foundation of it, at its core, there was a spiritual element.
Always.
Period. And so, you know, and I've got a cousin that she lives in San Antonio, and she's learning stuff about her neighborhood and about, you know, where she bought it. It's an older neighborhood, but, and you and I, all of us know that when you look at those black and white tiles, you're like, I wonder what those are all about. You know what? And it's the whole duality thing. But then you learn that that's all Freemasonry, and the Freemasons were big of setting up all of our structures and our institutions. But they believe in certain, what's the word, futures and visions of what they claim that their creator is going to bring to the world, and the grand architect of the universe. And so when you understand that they have not a financial or physical goal, they've got almost like a spiritual goal that is supposed to be attained.
Absolutely.
And what was that?
I said, absolutely. I'm agreeing.
And so I guess what some of the things that we want to talk about in this series is, how do we, if they, and because think about it, this is what pisses me off. They have all this secret knowledge that has enabled them to control the masses through mind control, mass manipulation, witchcraft, which I would never take part in witchcraft because, I mean, I know that, but it's unfair. I mean, we're like out here like a bunch of babies in the spirit realm, And these guys are like, what did I just do? Oh, that was weird. These guys are out there like, adults taking advantage of these babies, and kind of like what's happening in the real world, where we talk about child sex trafficking and adrenochrome harvesting and all that crap. People are out conspiracy theorists.
Yeah.
Live in your ignorant blisses world. I'm so tired of having to just have people that don't want to face reality and think that nothing is happening. There's no boogeyman. We're not at war.
Well,
We definitely were.
Yeah, the thing with those conspiracy theorists, that whole thing is just to make fun of people who actually know the truth, so that others don't awaken to it.
Right.
If they're laughing at you, going, "Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist," everybody's like, "Oh, you're crazy. You just need to be put somewhere, put on medication, whatever." And it's like, no. I heard it's probably been 6 months to a year ago. I heard the difference between a conspiracy theory and truth is about a year.
Well, I heard it was 6 months.
Well,
It used to be a year. Well, think about this. It used to be 10 years.
yeah.
And then it became 5 years. Then it became 3 years. Right now, we're about, I would say, 2 weeks
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
for the people that are doing the research.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, they're not being too quiet about it right now. It's just like I said, it's the full, it's what we were talking about with the, the contract and the fine print. They don't have a choice now, but to put it out. And it's kind of like, well, we told you if you sign on the dotted line, that's on you. They automatically know people aren't going to discern.
Part of it too is that they have to disclose everything they're doing. And so they've been doing it the whole time, but they've been doing it in parallel ways. Like they're putting it into, superhero movies, and they're putting it into all these different type of movies, but they're showing both sides of it. And now we're looking at the same movies that we've been watching and buying and going to our whole lives. And we're like, holy shit, that's in direct alignment with exactly what's going on and what has been going on, because they have to disclose it. But then when we pay for it and we become customers to all of this and engage with it, they're saying, well, we warned you because we told you, you watched the movie, you didn't do anything about it. So your silence is acceptance, basically.
And that's, so when people understand, like when you look at Freemasons or the Illuminati, they've always made it a point to stay within the spiritual, I guess, guidelines and what they're allowed to do. Mm-hmm. And so supposedly by getting your consent, you're allowing them to, it's like letting the vampire in the front door, but so they got to show you. And by you not saying, hey, I'm not okay with this, almost like when they use that legalese, and when the cop says, do you understand? I'm not standing under anybody. Like, no, just get away. I'm not going to interact with the corporation and their illegal statutes. They try and get us, and I've had a podcast that I recorded with this guy named James C. Lovett, and he talked about those structures and how to you be a national sovereign, a human being that's a living soul here on earth using common law of the land. And so it's been educational, right, from that perspective for podcasts. But what we wanted to do with you guys and your experience is that we got to chew on some meat eventually. Enough baby bottles are in the spiritual world. Let's put the baby bottle down. Let's start getting into some fish and some chicken, maybe eventually some red meat. And there's too many people that they want to be baby spoon fed the fake world so that they can sleep at night knowing that, okay, there's no boogeyman. When people like you, y'all, myself, have been our whole lives tormented by the supernatural. Like, we know there's a boogeyman. I've seen him face to face. Like, like I said yesterday, when the whole levitation, I got levitated. I don't want to be levitated. I damn near shit. Well, did I? I don't think I did. No, thank God. I don't think I was able to. I had no energy. I was up 3 feet above my waterbed back in the day. Remember those? And it scared the crap out of me. But see, when you're sensitive like that, and you walk into areas like a museum of art, and there's artifacts there that have 1,000-year-old energies.
Yeah.
You're walking in like a baby that's been baby spoon fed, that the world is okay. Now, at this point, I don't go into certain bars. I don't go into certain areas of town because I know I don't expose myself until I learn from you two ladies about how to be more, what's the word? Shielded, protected. I use my prayers, and I have crosses all over me. I got a tattoo on my leg just in case when the Antichrist comes. I'm not going to ever say like, no, I'm not a Christian. Cause I want to say, no, it's in my skin. I have no choice at this point. There's no fear coming into play. I've kind of claimed who I believe in. So, so that's, how do we, and I've got a video I was going to show, because when I started freaking out 2 years ago, when I saw the mask coming out and the whole lockdown, I'm like, here they come. Mm-hmm. They're coming for us. And people thought my overacting and vocalizing my concerns about what was happening, when they're thinking like they're just trying to protect us. It's about the health of our society. No, it's not. Stop being stupid. It's a fucking virus, and you're gonna put a stupid, it's the most. Anyways, I don't want my energy to go down when I talk about those things because it's just so stupid. But so this video that it was. I've been posting a ton of stuff on Telegram, and I found this one from it freaks me out, and it's supernatural, and it's where this one priest, I'll show you so that I don't have to, because if I try to explain it.
Series Supernatural?
Say it again.
Is it from the series Supernatural?
No, it was just something I found on Telegram.
Oh, okay.
I'm on these different channels. Are you all on Telegram?
Yes. I have been in there on other people's stuff.
Oh,
I started one for us, but
did you? Can I share?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I want y'all to get this. I want y'all to look at it and then tell me what y'all think of.
It should be letting you do it. Here, let me see.
There goes. Wait.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. There it is. Oh, wait. Let me go to this one. Okay. Share sound. This is, this was, okay, here we go. The possessed spills the beans. See if I can, okay, so check it out. He,
Cross.
Can you hear it?
Look at me.
Yes.
You're arrested. Is the part of your kingdom set? Is it?
But she won't take it.
What happens if she takes it?
She's
She's yours. How? It's just
no.
it's
We work through medicine.
No, but it's
Let me notice the serpents.
the serpents. What serpents?
Couldn't get lost.
That shows medicine, the serpents. Is that what you're talking about? No, I don't believe you're talking nonsense. So you work through pharmakia, witchcraft. So is all part of your plan? I arrest you in the name of Jesus. Part of your plan.
Black magic.
It has black magic in it.
But she already knew that.
So it's got black magic in it. So what happens when people take it? What is going to do to the people in the long run? Kill them. Before repentance. When are they going to die? When are they going to start dying? What's the plan? You don't know. But the is going to kill them. Does the protect them from COVID?
Not at all.
Not at all. But they say it protects them from COVID. So you say it doesn't at all?
Because they were also working with us.
Who?
The ones that say it works.
Really? Now why do they want to kill the people?
That Jesus can't have all his soul.
Why is Jesus coming soon?
Yes.
So they're trying to kill as many as they can before he comes. When is he coming? Soon. You don't know. No one knows. But we know it's soon, right? Time is short, right? So where have you been every time we've cast you out?
And there's one more. Let me just, so that people are like, she's a really good actress. Here's another girl that's possessed.
Not all. What is it? Isn't it just medicine? It's medicine. It's helping people.
Harming people.
It's helping people.
It's harming people.
But it's from doctors. The doctors say we must take it.
They work with us.
Do they know they're working with you?
Some, yes. Some do.
Not all, though. So what's I don't understand. What's in there? I command you, tell me in the name of Jesus. Luke 8 verse 17, look at me. Luke 8 verse 17, look at me. Luke 8 verse 17, there's nothing hidden that will not be made manifest. Nothing secret that will not be known. Is that the word of God? Yes. Who's the word? Jesus. So do you have to obey the word?
Yes.
So what's in that's
Magic.
black magic?
Witchcraft.
Witchcraft. So as soon as someone gets do they immediately get demons?
They just open doors.
Oh, they open the doors and then the demons come in.
Yes.
But now what if I got in and I repented of it? What if I took and I
You know what happens.
and I decided that I want to
You know
repent?
what happens.
Tell me what happens. They get freed. So if they take, there's still a way out, right?
Yes.
What,
Yes.
What is the way out?
Jesus.
Jesus. He's always the way.
Yes.
So all these people, they can just choose Christ and repent. And that door's closed.
Yes.
Sit up straight in Jesus' name, I command you. And that door's closed.
Yes.
Is the in itself harmful to people? Or is it just the open door?
It's harmful.
Is it harmful?
Yes.
Wow, what is it going to do to people?
Take their souls if they don't know.
How's it going to take their souls?
They're gonna go to hell.
If they take
Yes.
why?
Because we've won.
You haven't won.
If they don't know, they don't repent.
But if they repent,
See, interesting stuff. What's y'all's first takeaway? Like, what do you feel?
That's exactly what's happening.
Exactly.
Yep.
I mean,
There's so much going on behind the veil. I mean, like,
Is it?
I love that you named that series this, because it's what people are not seeing, is that this is a spiritual war, but it's playing out on mankind physically. And through spiritual means too. It's both ways, but we're getting hammered in 16 different directions at once.
yep.
Yeah. See, the thing is, just like silence is acceptance with dark. If you ask, your angels, God, and all of them to come in, that's the only time they will. They don't interfere. Dark, you don't tell them no. Guess what? Free reign.
Especially if they have legal precedents, like, through actions or words, or just ignorance and not knowing what the truth is. Like, in us we trust. No, man, I did not create this universe. I do not know how to make a tree. So why are you gonna, step into that zone and act as if your creator is coming from you? That's a lot of responsibility, bro. I ain't putting that on my shoulders.
Exactly.
And I'd rather just be the bystander that's happy to be created, and we could be co-creators with the Christ that is our Savior. And so we do kind of co-create the reality by what we think and our frequencies and our vibrations. Joe Dispenza, Greg Braden, all that stuff. Yeah, that's real. But when you understand at the core of that, there's a main frequency of either fear or love. And that if you understand that God is love, then you understand when you start to mess with that fear aspect. That's their main weapon. That's their main tool. When you start to go into those arenas, i.e., mainstream media and other bullshit, like they're trying to keep people in fear, kids with their masks on, just this whole subconscious feeling of I can't say what I want to say because, you know, this is mental abuse. And any parent that's still letting their kids be abused like that are a bunch of pussies. And I'm calling it for what it is because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of seeing these kids being abused and these parents, like all these people that are like, oh, go free the people of Ukraine and, you know, fight for their freedoms. Bitch, you weren't fighting for your freedom when your kids were going to school with the mask on.
Yeah.
What the hell are you talking about, hypocrites? So I just, and I like to call people out for their bullshit because I think it doesn't happen enough. I think the world has gotten so pussified that they want to just kind of be the happy-go-lucky. Let's just don't raise any feathers. Let's just kind of let's just wave the white flag. Let's just be a bunch of weak-ass, quitters. But just do as you're told and don't question. Don't go with that gut you've got of self-preservation that, it's experimental. It's a gene therapy, but I mean, it's there for your own good. Bitch, it's experimental gene therapy. You just told me the answer. You'd be the first experiment. How about that? And then let me know how it goes in 5 years. We don't know where the hell we're going in this whole terrain. And my question is like, man, are we going to be screwed? Like, is there a way to get this stuff out? I mean, I saw a video the other day. I don't know if y'all want to see it, but they pulled a snake out of a girl's stomach. And she said all that she did was take her second dose of the vaccine. And over time, she started having pain in her stomach. And that something was eating her, like she was slowly getting weak. It's kind of gross, but I don't know if I want to watch it.
Really gross.
Huh?
It's really gross.
Yeah, they were showing it and they pulled out the thing from her esophagus. And then all of a sudden you see this damn snake. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? And the nurse was like, oh my God. Like it was sick. But I'm like, you've heard of the vaccines when they, under a microscope, they see little like parasites.
Yeah.
And is that a baby? I don't know what the hell. Anyway, so
many things.
So my question to you ladies is, obviously they have a better understanding of where we are in the timeline compared to just a regular human being that's just watching TV and eating McDonald's. What type of mechanics is required to wake these people up to understand what we're really working with, what we're dealing with here?
Well, a lot of it is awakening itself, right? Because when you have this awakening, here's what happens. And so we're basically in the middle of a war of frequency. That's all this boils down to.
Yep.
Because if you look at, this is kind of this might be a long way to explain this, but this is basically how to see what's going on in a nutshell. For me to break that down.
No, I mean, what I like to do is I'm a 5-year-old kindergarten. You know this way more than I do. So you're probably like got a bachelor's and I'm maybe in 3rd grade.
I don't agree that you're in 3rd grade. Actually, it's funny. Tanya and I were like, oh my gosh, you sound exactly like us. So we're doing the same stuff, but we're just doing it in different ways. So if you look at basic humans, like unawakened humans, we vibrate at around 63 to 65 hertz, right? If you think of it this way, if you look at everything on a frequency scale, so we're at 63, 65. If you dip down 10 hertz, now you're getting sniffles, you're getting minor things going on, 10 more, now you've got big illnesses coming in. You dip 30 down, you're in like, terminal illness, cancer, which is basically a similar frequency of fear. So you got the fear, the shame, the cancer, the death, all within like 30, 40 hertz. It's like this tiny little space. You go from a perfectly healthy human to being on your deathbed riddled with disease, or you're in fear or shame. When people awaken and they have their Kundalini, their vibration goes all the way up into the 300s. And then you've got, so now what happens is all your abilities are flooding in, because whereas you were vibrating as a human, it's like at 63, 65, your brain isn't open to other dimensions. Your brain can't accept different frequencies at that level. But when you go up into the Kundalini level, Now you're going to different realms. You're, you know, have telepathy, all your clair abilities are flying in, you're communicating with God team. And then usually what happens is when people find themselves in that position, then they'll start healing and they'll deal with their wounds and their blocks, and they're moving into unconditional love and all of these different levels all the way up the scale. The thing is, the higher you get, the further you are away from the lower vibration, the more toxic you are to each other, because now you're at polar opposites. So it's like people that awaken, they find themselves up in this 300 level. They can't handle the energy of the you know, the superficial or the human, the 3D, you know, financial shit. And it's like all of this materialism and all this stuff doesn't matter to them anymore, because now they're dipping into, you know, understanding the universe, and they're doing things like this way beyond them. So what we've noticed is the higher you move into the frequency, the more you build that light, your well, your DNA switches from a carbon to a crystalline. But you can literally see it on your skin. If you're awakened and you're moving up through the frequencies, and the higher you get, you can actually see sparkles on your skin.
Really?
And I have a picture of a light body. Have I ever shown you that?
No, but is it look silver?
No, it looks like a light bulb. Do you want to see it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to share it because it's super interesting. It's like people don't believe that light bodies are real. They don't believe that you're really shining from the inside. But somebody very close to me, I will just say that, when they were born, I went in delivery room right afterwards, and I took like 58 pictures in a row. And when I was flipping through, they were calling me mamarazzi. They're like, enough. And I'm like, I'm not done. And I just blasted through like picture after picture. And then when I actually went to go send these, one of them showed this baby's light body. And I knew this kid was going to be awakened. A lot of children are born awakened, and they're lighter because the programming hasn't set in. And so they're connecting with angels. They're seeing spirits. They're seeing dead people. They're seeing demons. And a lot of times they don't talk about it because the adults that are so programmed to believe this is some bullshit and crazy are telling them that they're nuts, or they're shaming them for it. And so they block it. But I'm going to show you this, because here's how crazy this is. I'm going to show you first, just for a reference point. The head is a little tiny. I'm going to cover his face up, but let's see. I don't know if you can even see that. Can't see his.
For some reason, that glare always gets in the way.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks better.
His little head is right. His little head is.
Trying to see.
Anyway, here, I'll just show you
the light?
the actual. It's the picture is really dark, is what it was. But okay, so here you go.
Okay.
You see that?
So that light is, whose ear is that?
That's the dad's ear. And the baby's head was only about a third of that size, and it was resting on his shoulder. But that's the baby's.
So it's going outside of his body.
It what?
It's like the aura. It's coming outside of that body, of his body.
In all actuality, yeah. It's kind of like an aura.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Crazy, right?
And that wasn't a light in the room that glared or something?
Mm-mm. No, it was his little head was just like right here. It was like here, but I was like, that's the first time I've actually seen a light body before. And it's interesting because when you look through the spiritual community, you see, I've seen those pictures of those before when people have like created them through CGI or whatever, or through design. And it looks like they look like little Casper shaped light bulbs. And they're reaching out to each other and all this stuff. And then actually showed up like that. And I was like, holy shit, that's actually what they look like. But what happens is when you're vibing like that, you're so protected, because if you think of the very high frequency and the dark frequency, like fire and ice, right? So we're two different temperatures. If you bring an ice cube up from the bottom and you start hitting the human level, it's gonna just be okay. If you bring it to the Kundalini level, it's going to start melting. It can't handle the frequencies too different, just like temperature. If you bring it all the way up to the top, it's just going to disintegrate, right? But it works the same way. So if we kind of go down, we start getting cold, we'll freeze. It's the high frequency and the low frequency are completely opposite, and we're lethal to each other, which is why what's happening right now is you've got all of these people, the 13 families in the dark. I mean, we call them dark, you call them evil, dark and light, evil, good and evil, same thing. But what they're doing is they're low vibing, right? Because they're working with demonics, they're other beings, they're very low vibing, so they don't have abilities because they can't hit that level where those open up for them. So they're taking our abilities, they've studied all of these decades, and they're taking these abilities.
I've been talking about this.
Yeah, they're replicating them and they're using them against us with technology. So they're using stuff like, oh, the favorite phone network that we're not allowed to say usually without getting shut down with the number between 4 and 6 and G, right? FIVE.
Right.
GE. There's that. There's the voice to skull. There's the MK Ultra. There's witchcraft, voodoo, Santeria. They're doing it from a spiritual level, and they're doing it from a demonic level, because all the demons do is they bring your frequency down. So their whole agenda is, we're going to use the vaccine because the vaccine itself is a frequency that's very similar to cancer. The stuff in it has all kinds of
cancer exploding right now. Cancer's going through the roof right now. People are saying cancer.
Oh yeah.
They're having all kinds of cases coming out, and people that were in remission completely blowing up. And you know, I was off of, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I can. But I was on social media. It's been off for a while, but when I'm back on, I'm going through some of the things, and like I'm seeing posts of rest in peace to Bobby and all these different people. Like what was his name? Anyways, I don't know his name, but it was a B, and he passed away because and he was like 38, 37.
Yeah.
And then the other person, it was, and they didn't say how he passed away, but I'm assuming it was a heart attack, and everyone's passing away from heart attacks. See all the soccer players that are dying from heart attacks?
Yeah.
There's a multitude of things that are actually happening right now, because it's kind of like there is a mercy at play for some people who can awaken, but to a certain degree, and this stuff is kind of going to freak them out. So it's kind of like, you can look at it. It could be dark, could be light, could be that, related to any of the stuff. But it's kind of like there's just so many things
that are going on.
Oh yeah.
And it's like a multi-layered approach that they're doing in this.
Oh, yeah. They're doing it.
So I wonder if that's when I had COVID, I was still, and I think I told you about how 2019 was a very supernatural year for me.
Mm-hmm.
But then in 2020, it was, I think, April. I got, it was into March, into April. I believe I got the COVID virus. And a bunch of us, I saw my buddy text, a group text, by the way, guys, I came out positive. I'm like, damn it. And so it was 2 days in when he sent that text that I wasn't having taste or smell. I couldn't taste anything. And I'm like, it slowly happened. And I'm thinking like, man, this sucks. I can't taste or smell anything, to the point where I'm like grabbing like heavy smelling stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nothing. And then all of a sudden I feel my brain hurt. I'm like, oh, that's not a good thing. And so I started to put away, but nothing else happened to me. So I'm still probably vibrating at this higher, because there was a catalyst that I had in 2018 that I think had put me on this level where I'm just hearing all kinds of downloads, and the whole year was just as full of just supernatural stuff. And then into 2020, I was still vibing on that level. And then the other thing too was during that time period, anybody negative, I'm like, done with you. I ain't doing it. You go be negative somewhere else. I'm just, the minute that voice starts with, like this whole, no, not talking to you. We're not having this discussion. If I have family members that are like, this is the third time I'm like, this is the third time you told me the same story. What are you going to do about it? Because, I can provide you a possible solution, but does it really matter, or do you want to just complain? If it complain, is it a bitch session? Okay, just be real about it. Stop beating around the bush and that you just want to bitch about something for 2 hours. And I just don't, I've been that way since I was a kid too, by the way. I don't like complainers, and it's not good for the vibe. So,
but it feels painful when you awaken. Then it's just like, it's just telling, and it's like a direct aversion.
You said exactly right. That's exactly what it was. Before I could put up with it, it was okay. You can kind of, but then when you that catalyst was like, and you do the whole, you're resonating, all that stuff's like, ugh. I couldn't go into bars. I was just completely like, you feel like the heat, and then you go to the bar, and it's like this whole, just like sucking it in. You're like, oh, I'm about to throw up all that negative energy. Had to, just, and it wasn't even like, I wasn't maybe second, third drink. And really the alcohol just to kind of drown that. So you're not having to feel so much sensitivity, but it was the whole element of just positive. I just want positive people around my life. I want just people that are looking to do something with their life. And then you start to slowly remove people from the scenario. Because you start thinking, every time I talk to you, you're kind of negative. I don't think I like it anymore.
That's really, really important that you said that, because if you think about all you did, like you hit your Kundalini and you're this far away, right? 60 to 300. Can you imagine how dark feels? And then the higher you vibe, see, this is our whole power in it too, because the higher you vibe, the more repelled dark feels by your energy. So if you're like this light bulb, like this little baby, right? If you were able to look at you from this level, and I don't know, it could show up on a camera, like orbs will show up on cameras better than they will to naked eyes usually. But the higher you vibe, the more toxic you are to dark. I mean, we actually there's a really high vibing element that we use that literally will incinerate demons on contact. It's like, it's so toxic. It's such a frequency that's so dangerous to them that we literally will push it through them and they just crumble and move away like ash. It's insane.
And that's what I'm talking about. Like if there's stuff that we can actually utilize that it's kind of like a little ray gun, I mean, why not? It's why they have such an advantage because of the knowledge they have and the hidden, the occult stuff. And then we're just left here out with no weapons. I mean, we have weapons. We have the biggest weapon, of course, but I mean, just a little bit of a cheat session, like, would be nice every once in a while, so we're not always getting hit from the side. So I told you about the vision I had at the end of 2019, right?
Which one?
The one, well, I guess I didn't. So where it was the Monday before Thanksgiving, and I was awake, first vision that I've ever had. It was like an open vision. It kind of played like a movie. I'll explain it real quick.
I don't think Tanya heard it.
No? So it was Monday before Thanksgiving, and it's about 9:30 at night, and I lay my head down. I was gonna actually start to meditate. Is what I was trying to do. Is like just get into these meditation areas, and more like just kind of get into prayer and focused on higher realms. And all of a sudden, I see a movie start playing out in front of me, and it was where I was in hell, and I could see all these demons working like overtime, 24/7. And the impression I got was these dudes are running out of time. And so as I see this scene play out, and it's all the elements of what you would consider traditional hell, and it starts to rise. And as it starts to rise, I could see tunnels coming up, and you could see like the dirt, but like almost like an ant farm. You could see like how these tunnels were all kind of coming to the earth, but then in the tunnels you see the demons were literally coming from hell with operations and plans, and they're coming to this whole higher section. I see this street, and it's like a weird movie where you see the dirt, and as you see the dirt, you see the road, and all of a sudden you're kind of on top. But from the bottom to the top, there is a whole element of prostitution, human trafficking, drug trafficking, the epitome of dark, just a dark way of moving money around. And it was, I could see how at the core of everything, it wasn't just the economy, it was like the banking, the healthcare, like it was all dark. There's no way of saying it. And so you get above the street, and then, the backdrop was like a gray, and it kept rising. And the closest I could think about this rising process was what I consider ascension, what they kind of call it. So the demons, they were starting to like have a hard time keeping up with the scenery, with the scene. And so they start to fall off. And as the demons were falling off, because they were too dense, is what I always said. But the economy they created was shutting down. It was breaking. It wasn't working anymore. So pretty soon, there was no action whatsoever. It was just as a gray scene of just moving through this dimension of, like, I could tell that everything had just come to a standstill. Right. And then all of a sudden, a big white light just across the screen, like a movie screen. And the word reset was like clear as day, like reset. And then all of a sudden, background turned light blue. And so the light blue came, and I'm like, oh. And then you see an angel come down, and they'll start to put like one part of a new structure. And then another angel came down and was rebuilding an economy from the ground up. And pretty soon, there was just millions of angels. Just, and as you kept rising, it was like this element of dark to light. And then I heard the words, he said, help me change this world from a fear-based economy to a love-based economy. And I'm like, what do you mean the world? First of all, I'm like, this was 2019. We haven't even gone through a global shutdown yet. I live in Austin, Texas. It's not like I'm even in the capacity of. And this is after a whole summer of months of me building this new business plan that he wants and getting these downloads of just, you know, always at night from like 1 to 4 in the morning. And so I'm already compiling this media plan that attacks fear. And it was way before I even saw the level of fear, because I hadn't watched TV in 20 years. But I didn't notice how the mainstream media had gone so high on just fear broadcast. So I was building a plan that was completely outside of that arena. I didn't know it was so bad. But so when, and then he said something else. He said, see yourself as I see you. And there was a crown that he put in front of me. And he said, you are royalty. And he was like, put it on. I couldn't put it on. I was like, I can't do it. I'm not there yet. And so the element of where this was coming from, I mean, in my eyes, was he knows something I don't know about what's going to take place. And I wasn't too aware of how dark the economy truly was. Mm-hmm. And then I learned about adrenochrome. And then I learned about human trafficking and the container ships and Evergreen and all kinds of shit. But what you're saying and what y'all are saying is directly the vision that I got, that I didn't know how the mechanics of it were. But one thing that I did know in my gut was that this is all about density and frequencies. Like, these frequencies are going higher, and these demons just can't keep up. And their structures of the old guard and what's been their control and manipulation, they're falling apart. And so I guess what my mission is, and to help, and probably maybe in line with you guys, is showing people what this looks like, because the world's never going to be the same. What people think is going to happen is not, I don't think is going to happen. I think the parts of the revelation are almost as if they're trying to hijack us to create their new world, when God's like, that's not what I got envisioned. I got the meek shall inherit the earth. That's what I got. And the meek are the ones that are going to control this world, this new earth that I envision, that I want, because it's time for the energies of dark to just be gone from this dimension. That's I mean, it kind of resonates with what the whole frequencies and the hertz thing, that they just can't exist up there.
Exactly. And our job is to balance it out, because, okay, so if you look at it like a chess game, and we have to play by, like you were talking about these rules earlier, it's the rules of engagement, the angelic rules of engagement. So where we're at now is that dark has been making its move since beginning of quarantine. And this move has been going on forever and ever and ever. Their job, or their move, is to bring the frequency down to the point where it's almost cataclysmic. They're going to do what they got to do. And what's written is written. Like, we can't do anything about it. But at a certain point, it's going to be our job to light the grid back up. And there are 144,000 are on the ground. They're moving. They know what they're doing with their energy. We've got light workers all over the place. And as a combined effort, people that are still awakening, people are still moving into their roles. But you've got this light army on there on the ground, army out there all over the world that's on the ground. They're all experiencing the same stuff. They know what they're supposed to do. They're moving into their knowings of what they're supposed to do. And the whole thing is all about frequency. It really is. It's about their energy, their abilities. And we're doing what we have to do with our abilities to counteract all of the shit that they're doing to us with the technology, the voice to skull, with the mind control, the vaccine, even the COVID, because really that's all this is. It's a high frequency versus low. So
Let me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show you. What were you gonna say, Tanya?
Oh, I was gonna say, like, it's a step thing though. It's not something that we can, pull it all the way up, because it's kind of like, that's the reason you've got these, certain people awaken at certain times, right? It's, the 144, then you've got some
Mm-hmm.
light workers, and then all of a sudden all these other people. It's kind of like everybody's like, oh, the Great Awakening. Well, the Great Awakening is nothing more than full disclosure. That's it. Because what happens is people are actually able to raise up to the point of understanding it, right?
Right.
So that right there in itself is an awakening. Um, but if that all happens at once, you just think about how low dense everything is, right? And you yank that up. Like I've seen, I'm like, ugh, it's almost like a polar shift. It doesn't look like it would be very good to yank it all
Right.
up at once, really
And that's
fast.
my thoughts. Is that if we don't help to raise the awareness of people, the level of consciousness, when that happens, it could be cataclysmic in the wrong direction.
Oh yeah.
And that's where I feel like we got to help expand the awareness, because if they don't wake up, then we're in a shitstorm. Like, so this is, so the very next day, like confirmations, you all talked about confirmations earlier. And for me, it's been kind of important because my whole life I've been sensitive, and I've never heard voices, but every once in a while I did, but it was more like a gut knowing, what you were saying, the whole knowing word. But then in 2019, I'm starting hearing like a voice. I'm like, what the hell? And so for me, confirmations are like huge. And so the next day I went and I bought because I kind of heard, write it out, draw it out. And so I went and I drew what I saw. And so, let's see here, desktop 2. Yeah. And so this is what I wrote out. And it's pretty primitive. But can y'all see that?
Mm-hmm.
So
flashpoint and the burst of light and okay.
Yeah, so I did this whole, like, this is the element. This is the knowing of what I was seeing so this is the chaos of hell, but this is also just in general just a chaotic frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I rose, and it's weird because it even gave me another message that I didn't even know until like maybe a week later. I'm like, oh, you know what? So as it comes up, got to this level, it's like the street level is like right around here somewhere. So this was still not to the point where I saw that flash of light, the burst of light, flashpoint. But look what I noticed afterwards. Look at what it created in the old guard. Does that look like the pyramid of the Illuminati?
Mm-hmm.
So flashpoint, it changes from a fear-based economy, and now we're building a love-based economy. Now look what happens to the pyramid. Who's the most important?
Mm-hmm.
As above, so below.
The least shall be greatest.
Yep.
The meek shall inherit the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Great transfer of wealth. The Illuminati is being flipped on its head.
Yep.
As we return back to the sun. And so I'm like, did I really see this? And it's pretty clear that he did. But there's a guy that I call myself pretty active in this. I just go out a lot, and I've been trying to be more responsible in the last few years. One, because I don't want to get all that crap on me from vaccines, there's protein spikes and all that bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
But I met this guy that was a friend of mine. Well, he was a friend of a mine. So it wasn't a guy that I've known for a while. I've known him for maybe 2 months. It was maybe 2 months before this event even happened. And like typical, like, hey, let's link up on Facebook and whatever. Facebook was the one that I've used the most, just because I don't like Instagram. Everybody's like, look at me. Oh my God, I'm so pretty. And it gets irritating. At least Facebook, I can have dialogue. And so I met this guy. So I maybe saw him 2, 3 times, just general conversation at a bar or whatever. 2 weeks after this vision, he sends me an image on Messenger that I don't even know why he sent it to me or but he sent me that message, that image. And I'm like, I replied back going, hey bro, why'd you send this to me? No response. But if that's not confirmation for what the hell I saw.
Yeah.
I don't know what else could be. Like, that is literally in a nutshell. Because look where the world's taking us. If we don't understand, like, it's sucking you down, right, into that chaos. But if you can make it against the current, once that break happens, boom, we're going to be enjoying good times. That's the future that we hold. But like the book of Exodus, when Moses was leading the Israelites out of Egypt, they just bitched and complained the whole time. But maybe, just maybe, that message that was being taught to us in that scripture was heaven is created with your frequencies that you agree on. If your collective consciousness is going to be focused on the land of milk and honey, then that's what you're going to create and experience. But if you're just going to bitch and moan the whole time, well, boom, down you go to the little funnel of chaos. And so I feel there's going to be a separation at some point. I think that rapture is going to be embedded in that. And I think that the mechanics of it is a high frequency and a low frequency of a division. And so to some people, that's going to look like rapture, where people are just completely lifted up into a different dimension. They're gone. And all of a sudden they're like, hey, why is everybody gone? To other people who made that switch, who made that little jump, it's like a whole new earth. Like, man, it just feels so much better for some reason. So for me, I'm just going with what that vision told me. The great harvest and the rapture, separation of sheep and the goats, all of that stuff is going to happen. And there's different words to it. But I think literally what it means is a division of dimensions between positive and negative, dark and light, good versus evil. At a certain point, God's going to be like, enough's enough. Get my people out of there. We're going to build the new earth. Whoever wants to come along for the ride, by all means, let's do this. But decide, are you for good or are you for evil? No more people sitting on that fence, because there's no time for that anymore. The dark's making their move. They want to bring down people. I can't mess around with a bunch of sheep that don't know what to do, because you're going to get slaughtered. The cliffs is right over there, and you're not recognizing it. Guess what? For me, I'm going to throw out a couple of life rafts. But if you keep continually trying to go back to the damn whirlpool, I'm going to just let you go. Bye. I'm not going to surround myself with people that are going to take me down. I'm not going to drown with you. So if that's what you agree to do, that's going to be your, I don't know, the whole, am I talking too much?
No,
No.
not at all. No. This makes complete sense. Absolutely.
Did I show you all this?
You can only have one frequency, right? I mean, the world can only do one frequency at a time. And it's going to boil down to which one's going to win.
Yeah.
I know who's going to win.
We are.
I know where I'm going to go. The question is, where are most people going to go? So look, this is the movement. This is the media plan that I'm building, the business plan, all focuses around what I call the movement. And this is something that it's part of the epiphanies. You know, I've got this whole plan put together through this process of just waking up all night and stuff. But this is where I feel once that shift happens and that burst of light, and all of a sudden now we're starting with a clean slate. And God's like, all right, guys, this is your time. You got the money, you got the resources. Do what I told you to do. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. It's been in their prayer all along. And for some reason, people want to complicate things about this, that, and, well, is it pre-rapture? Is it post-rapture? Maybe just live life as God wants you to live it so that we can create heaven on earth. But they want to convolute things. So this is where the movement, draw a line in the sand, first step. And you got to choose who, can y'all read that, or is that too?
Yep.
So once you make that decision, the movement starts, because the next step's going to be great. If you choose the side of light, then get on bended knee and repent. What did we hear from those two possessed entities? They didn't want repentance, because once they repent, they're free.
Yeah.
And what they want are souls.
Yeah.
They wanted it. I mean, if you even secret space programs, some of them dark fleets are talking about just soul catchers. So once you've repented, You've wiped your personal slate clean. Now it's an opportunity for us to start building what God wants us to create. And this is what I feel. And this is my opinion. I may be wrong, but third step is seek truth, justice, and love. And that's where people really need to start taking some deep dives about the world that they live in, and not just think that this is just a physical realm with no spiritual elements to it. There's a lot more under the hood than what meets the eye. Transformers. So discover. We have to discover what truth really is, because, but believe it or not, whether people want to think that there's a woman that can become a man and a man can become no, it's bullshit. Your XX, your XY, that's the biology of it. He cannot go and swim against a bunch of women because that's not what God created at that point. That's my feeling. So discover truth, justice, and love. The fourth step is become your true, authentic self. And how you do that is once you've done the research, once you figured out that the reality you've grown up in is not truly reality that was told to you in your belief system, at that point, you can start to look inside yourself to become, okay, who am I authentically? Mm-hmm. What is my soul's expression of how I want to live? Because at that point, you can think about jobs and what your passions are going to be. So you start to awaken. Fifth step is pursue your passions of joy. And that's how you truly start to grow and become a member of this society where you're giving more than you're taking. And I don't just say that from a resource perspective, an energy perspective. When you can give more than you take, now the world around you is so much more beautiful. And that's where when we were having these sensations of, your whole vibe's off. It's because they're taking your energy. They're a bunch of energy vampires. And it's just, no one's got time for that anymore. So 5, pursue your passions of joy. That's how we grow. 6th step is once you've gotten to the point where you're awakened, you're completely in joy and harmony with yourself, because now you're kind of doing the things you want to do, what God intended you to do. He gave you those gifts for a reason, but you're stuck in a cubicle on a freaking computer all day. What are you doing for society other than just helping this corporation make a shit ton of money? Right. It's pathetic. I mean, for me, that's why I can never live that corporate ladder, because I'm like, this is such a waste. Why am I doing this? Why am I sitting in this damn rat hole for jack? It doesn't make sense. So number 6, help your neighbor in need. And that's by loving them. You can get them a plate of food, you can give them clothes. But what's God shown me, what he showed me in the visions of all 2019 is just love these people, because that's what they really need. If we look at some of the examples of monkeys when they're put into these tests, and you got one side with the water and the food, and you got the other side with the mama effect, which it feels like mama. It's not a real monkey, but they're literally 99.9% of the time that monkey's hugging the mama, even to the point where they just have to go and drink the water. People are much more sentient beings than monkeys. So how much more do they need love and affection than the monkey? I mean, monkeys, every sentient being needs love. Mm-hmm. But when you're not doing it in a way where, and I mean, think about the enemy's plan. It's so damn freaking clever. Don't go visit grandma. Don't touch her. No hugs. No affection.
Part of that, what that's doing is that's a mechanism to prevent us from having our auras close enough, because what we're doing is we're lighting up people. We're awakening people that it's orchestrated for us to move close to someone that's supposed to awaken. And we basically will light their Kundalini. We've got people that are, in doing so, when you're loving and you're giving that vibration, you're raising someone else's vibration, you're protecting them that much more. So that's part of the way that we're spreading all of this awakening, is just by loving. So I totally agree with that.
Well, do you see how the love part comes at step 6? And the reason the way I saw it was, you want to be in a place where you're in healthy love, so that you become a loving person from a genuine place, not where you're expecting some type of payback or some type of retribution, or to just look what I'm doing. All these virtue signal people that are like, I'm supporting the current things and go Ukraine. You don't even know what's going on. Just be quiet. Stay out of the conversation. And I'd be mean sometimes, but it's the frustration in me when it comes to just people that they're not doing what they need to do. They're so like just caught up in conformity that it's like conformity is the disease that we need to be outside of. Like, who wants to conform? My God, like I don't want to smell like everybody else at the freaking restaurant. Like, oh, I got that cologne too. Everybody else does. Oh, okay, great. I'm real special. Help your neighbor in need, and that's love. And then the last one is spread the good news, testify. And that's where we start to change the world around us. And we create a collective consciousness that God intended from the beginning. Because if you look around us right now, we're like, dude, this is not, if this is what God intended, he did something wrong. Because we're like stepping all kinds of different directions, stepping on people's toes. So obviously we're not doing what he intended us to do. We're not living the life that we were intended to live. We were given talents and blessings for a reason, and that was to be shared with others so that that soul expression can affect the energy in that room. And when you walk into a room, people will be like, hey, hey, how you doing? That's what you want, not like, oh, hey, what's up, bro? Great.
You're changing the frequency of the entire
Changing the frequency of the room.
area. Yep.
So, I mean, I'm going to get off my soapbox, but that's kind of where I feel like the 2019 experience of this whole, I mean, whatever the world is, the reality that we live in, I already knew it was kind of bullshit from the beginning, but it was shattered at a certain point. I'm like, man, what the hell's really going on? Like, what? Like, when you start to hear light coming through a window, you're like, whoa, what the hell? Was that real? And you're like, you're having all kinds of these experiences, understanding that the veil is like right there. You're like, oh my God, this is all not physical. Like, it's energy, but there's realms that if you start to resonate at a higher level, and you could start to, anyways, I don't know if dimensions and all that talk is within the supernatural realm, but I just feel like we just live in these multi-dimensional world where we see this much of it, and everything else is just way more of a bandwidth than we can even imagine.
Oh yeah, there's so much that we can't see at all. And I love that list that you just shared. And I see it maybe a little bit differently. I agree with all of it. But I see that almost as like people are doing that already. It's almost, I see it as an awakening as a group, but people are going to go through it in different stages. Because like Tanya was saying, if you shift the vibration of the entire planet too significantly and too quickly, it'll create chaos. It's almost like if you have an unawakened person and you put some high vibing stones in their hands, like you give them a handful of moldavite, which is really high vibing, put some crystals with it, it'll make them shake. I mean, it can give somebody a nosebleed.
Wow.
So it's really critical. You have to look at this like everything's a vibration. So as a point to what you were even saying earlier about the COVID, when you're high vibing, a lot of this stuff can't live inside you. So people that I know that are awakened that have had COVID have gotten through it really, really easily because, I don't want to say easily because like Tanya had it and it was brutal for her, but people that are awakened, their vibration is high enough that they're getting through this much easier than if they wouldn't have been awakened because of the frequency of all your layers, your physical layer, your energy layer.
I had someone who contracted it, and the minute I heard about it, I'm like, he's so fearful that I don't think he's going to make it, and he didn't make it. Sure enough, I'm like, damn it, I knew it. But I mean, that goes in line with what you're saying.
Well, like you were saying earlier about the door being opened, when even the demon in that possession was talking about the door being open. If they can drop your vibration low enough, you're wide open because there's nothing stopping them from moving into you. Because if you're really light, you're light, and even like if you're fire, some people that have like 144, they have the God spark, that shit's toxic. So if you look at yourself, like you keep your vibration really light and really high, and you're like that light bulb, and like the picture I showed you, you're like a bug zapper, right? So like people put these bug zappers on their porch to keep the mosquitoes out. If the mosquito tries to get past that certain barrier, it'll just fry it to shit. Well, that's what happens when dark tries to come into your energy. If you're bright and you're vibing high like that, and you bring fear, or like you got demonic stuff that's really just fearful, if you don't let it get to you, their energy can't penetrate it. They can't. So you're protected. But if you're wide open, if they can bring you down, like demonics, like you look at demons, all they're doing is they're ugly and they try to scare. That's all they do.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can scare you and bring your vibration down, then they can possess you. They can take you over. They can do whatever they want. They can manipulate you, intimidate you. They'll get you into that fearful place. And then guess what? Then you're going to be subject to lower vibration, like terminal illnesses. You get COVID and you're vibing really low. You're not protected from that lower frequency. You got the FIVEG pushing in there and aggravating it. You've got the MK Ultra that's manipulating people. You've got voice to skull that's putting fearful shit in your head. If you're not
Operation Mockingbird too.
The what?
Operation Mockingbird. That whole element from CIA.
Yeah. But they're hitting us from 12 different directions, and that the whole aim is just to bring your vibration down. That way they can make you sick. That way they can make you fearful. That way, I mean, you're a wide open door. So, and the vaccines. Anyway, I can't talk right now.
No, I mean,
that's a whole agenda, is to bring the vibration down. Because if they bring the vibration down, we're not doing our job. We're not going to be able to bring the vibration planet back up, and then it's cataclysmic at that point. So this really is all or nothing. It's dark and it's light. One of them is going to win. If you think about it too, if you have, and this goes like, if you want to use an analogy of hot and cold, it's the same way with light and dark. If you're in a dark room and you turn a light on, the light is going to take over the room.
right.
But if you have a light on, there's nothing dark can do to extinguish it. It can't smother it. It can't do anything. Light is always stronger, and dark knows this.
That's very scriptural too. It's in the Bible a lot. Says dark does not push out dark.
Well, see, the thing is too, the team gives me a lot of analogies, but it's kind of like they're constantly talking about, our vessel. Light and dark cannot sustain. It has to be one or the other. So you're not going to have, a light person who is vibing high that's possessed. Because it can't happen. It's not feasible. It doesn't work. One's going to, they're clashing. They would cancel each other out. But then, like Lynn said, and it's funny because she asked you earlier, I watched the show Supernatural. Like, there's a lot
Of truth.
of information in multiple television shows, movies. They toss Hollywood in there. They make it ugly. They make it scary. That whatever. They do this stuff so that you don't pay attention. But their whole agenda is right out there. But this particular one, I used to love this series, so I watched it like every single week.
Yeah, me and my son did too.
Yeah, there's one specific scene in it that I hear all the time, and team uses it as a reference point for me. But it's like, okay, so Dean's in this basement collapsed, can't get out, whatever. There is a demon that he's gotten trapped down there with him. And she looks at him and she goes, all we're doing is influencing. We are not physically harming anyone. We're not making you do anything. We give you sex, booze, drugs, whatever, and you guys just go crazy. Because that's the level, that nobody has discernment. If you're not awakened, you don't know what's light, what's dark. So you're just going to go with, with the crowd. What they
do. That's like resonating so much in regards to like, that fits right in line with the whole media plan. Because all the weapons of war is just show them the actions of what the devil wants. Just show them the actions of what's going to turn them on to go cheat on their wife. Go show them the actions of what it's going to be to become, I don't know, just a whore, If you want to think about it, TikTok, Instagram, it just devalues women so much that's like, okay, let's glorify being a whore. Let's just call it what it is. And there's no respect for themselves. There's no self-value. Why can't people just, but you're not, stand up for women. Oh, I think I am actually. Think about it. I mean, do you want to be a whore? Do you want to be known for your tits or for your mind? Well, then stop acting. Well, are you always showing your tits? Like, That's exactly right. They're just influencing them through the platforms to behave what Satan's children would look like.
Yeah.
So what, I think what the message were for the media plan was that, look, just show them what I want them to do. You don't got to tell them, hey, God told me to say this. Just go create the content. And the actions of what's going to be glorified is going to be what it's about. It's the good shepherd versus the bad shepherd. And what the last big download was, be the good shepherd. First, you got to get them to know who you are. Second is going to be where they can trust you, which is why I'm recording the podcast, by the way, so they know this is how I really think. I'm not like trying to be someone that I'm not. And
Right.
so that once you start to understand that, look, they can trust you. And then you can say, look, being that I'm not looking to put you in a position of harm, I think this might be a good idea to live life this way. And let me create this movie. Let's go find some writers for music. Let's go create the content that God will be like, yes, I approve that message. Not
Right.
this crap that we have on now with music. I mean, it's a dark agenda everywhere in Hollywood. I mean, if people understand how dark Hollywood is, which is the wood of a
Yeah.
holly tree that would do seances too in the woods of San Francisco,
Yeah.
it's literal black magic witchcraft. And people are under this spell right now because it's literally witchcraft. Pharmakia, that's what that or I don't know if it's a pastor, but they were spilling the beans about what their weapons are that they're using against us, that we were just walking around like a bunch of babies, not knowing what the truth is, and we're getting damaged that way. But yeah, both what y'all just talked about right now is exactly what I feel needs to be known so that people can start to think differently. I mean, stop watching the TV, first of all. Turn the damn thing off. It's not really doing you any good. I learned that back in high school, like not even high, probably middle school. And I'm like, Mom, why do you watch this? How many people died today? How many people were murdered? Like car wrecks. I'm looking at images of blood on the highway. Like, why would I want to see that? You know, and they're, well, it's just the news. That's not the news. That's not news for me. That's like crap. I'm sorry that they died, but what good is it doing me? Like, how am I going to go and let me go conquer the world?
Yeah.
10
Oh,
people are dead.
programming for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. So then how do we, by the way, TikTok, we talked about TikTok. Guess what they show in China? Guess what the algorithm is? Because it's owned by the Chinese, the CCP.
Yeah.
If you're at war with somebody and you want to make your country stronger than the other country, you have algorithms in America that glorify just, being a hoochie or whatever. Let's be a dancer or whatever. In China, you know what they glorify? Being an inventor, getting a bachelor's degree, going to a school of higher learning. They've completely flipped the script when it comes to algorithms. So what's happening here in America is we're allowing what's being entered into the mind, eyes are the windows to the soul. We're allowing our kids to be bombarded with Grand Theft Auto, where they give you bonuses for raping a woman in a car. Are you kidding me right now? Like, that's literally in a game. Like, and you're gonna let your kids play this game, and you get points for murdering people with bats. Like, this is like, and I've known, like, when I first heard that game, I'm like, are you? That's the actual, and it's selling. Like, this is stupid. Like, what are we letting our society go to? Just
I mean,
crap.
even if you look what's in Disney, the programming in Disney. I mean, the programming that we've seen in all these commercials, the programming we've seen in everything that we've watched on TV since we were watching it, since we were young. It's all, there's a lot of MK involved. It's basically all programming.
Well, and it comes down to influence. It's all about here. And you're like, oh, I'll go over there. And then before you know it, it's like a trap. And you're like, oh my God, it's like a life and death sentence. So as we close out, what do y'all think moving forward? What should people do? At least what's a starting point to get people to think differently?
Well, what you're doing, honestly, is getting the message out. And I in 2016, when I had my awakening, that's what I was getting really strongly from Michael, was get the message out, get the message out. And so the more, like, everything on your list was it. right there. It's, move into all of these stages like you were talking about. Learn to protect and clear yourself. And we can do a segment on that if you want. We can help people learn how to use their light and how to be protected from this stuff. But in doing so, you're also spreading the love. It's unconditional love. We're supposed to walk like Jesus did. It's that acceptance, that thinking beyond yourself, helping your neighbor, loving your neighbor. All of that is going to raise the frequency of everyone around us. Every time you go into the store, you're moving by people, you have an opportunity to share that energy, to rise somebody's vibration. Everywhere you go, use it as an opportunity instead of I just got to run an errand and I'm going to block myself from all this negative energy, which I did for the longest time once I was awakened. So I was like, oh God, I had to go into Walmart. It's like, it's a shithole of energy. And I would come out pissed off every single time. And Tanya would go, did you just go in Walmart again? And I'm like, God, every time I walk out of there, I just want to fucking cuss like a sailor for like 20
Dude, I'm
minutes.
telling you, it's not worth the savings.
No, but
can't do it.
after a while, team was like, what are you doing? I was like, why do you keep sending me to 8 stores in a row? Like they don't have it. They don't have it. I'm like, yeah, all I'm doing is running errands. And God's like, because you keep missing the opportunity. What are you doing? I'm sending you in there so you can light people up while you're crossing them in aisles and stuff. And you're just like, I'm in my little tunnel vision, avoiding everybody. He's like, you're not doing your job. But that's what we're supposed to be doing. In order for us to be able to raise the vibration of the planet and win this war, we have to understand our power, understand our energy, understand our light, understand how frequency works, understand what's against us, and then use that everywhere we go to help everybody else so that it's like a cumulative effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tanya, what's your take on that?
Basically, that's what I was going to say. It's a perspective change. Literally. I mean, it's not as difficult as we make it. It's like people don't truly understand what unconditional love is. I mean, I've had people that have been close to me that they don't understand the whole concept of unconditional love. And unconditional love is nothing more than giving love and not expecting anything in return. There's no expectation, no nothing. It's a simple concept, but it is so difficult for people to do.
Right.
It's kind of like the Mimi society, right?
Yeah. iPhone, iPad. It's it's inscripted in all of our subconscious communications that we're getting every day. Selfies.
Me, and look what they're doing. They're bringing everybody back in their bubble. They're keeping us 6 feet apart. We can't light anybody up, and we're just focused on ourselves from like a narcissistic standpoint. We're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. It's like the perfect distraction, and everybody's falling for it.
Yeah, well, I think go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I remember I was a CNA for years, and my instructor was like one of the best. But she told me, she's like, okay, babies die without physical contact. And I'm like, that's interesting. But it's true. That's the reason that when they're born, they lay them on the chest of the mother.
Wow.
It's a bonding thing, but it's also kids need this, like babies need it.
It's physiological.
Yes. So it's kind of like you look at babies in NICU, right? They're teeny, they put them skin to skin. But it's kind of like that's the same concept with everything. That's why this 6 feet apart is a big deal. Don't hug grandma. Don't touch her. You'll kill her. Yeah.
It's so for those of us who are awake, it's like, oh my God, these people are buying it. They're believing this ridiculousness. And then, people that are also awake with me, hey, go watch that movie Idiocracy. And I'm like, I don't know if I really want to, just because it talks about, or like, remember that movie, Wall-E, where we become just living on fast food and just no consciousness whatsoever, just like this blind, like this. And I think it's the flu shots too, by the way. I think that the flu shot over time has calcified the pineal gland, and just like they don't see it.
Multiple things. Yeah, multiple things that they've been using. It's not just one little it's like every single thing you have, there's a web.
Coke, Dr. Pepper, fried chicken. I love fried chicken though.
I really do. Some of these things are so easy to be addicted to, but it's like It's everything you put in your mouth and everywhere you look, everything you use. I mean, it's like the products that we use. It's just poison.
Mm-hmm. But the good news is, I think that people are. I think it's just the natural progression of where humanity is right now, because consciousness is raising. That they're going like, you know what? I don't want to eat McDonald's anymore. I think I'm going to stop doing that, and I'm not going to just cuss as much. Which for me, it's an issue. But it's the whole idea of just trying to be a better person, because it's better for you and for others. The whole forgiving thing. Yeah, forgive them. It's probably going to be better for you than for them. It's not even, I mean, it's kind of a selfish reason to forgive, but it's just that getting that energy off of you to be like, you know what? It's he or she said this because that's where they're coming from, and that's what they see in their head. You know, if you could start walking in people's shoes, for an instance, you'd be like, damn it, that's kind of sad. You can't start feeling bad for them. Like, you responded that way because you're living a pathetic life right now, and I feel bad for you. Like, you're beating yourself up. You're kind of attacking yourself for not being worthy enough. And to be honest, it's all programming. It's all commercials. I mean, my background's I got a BBA in marketing and from UTSA. And when I started going into advertising, that was I wanted to do that for the creative aspect of it. And so I look at the TV storyboards and look at the scripts, but I got into the nitty gritty of it and started looking at commercials more closely during that time period. And I'm like, you make people feel like shit so they can buy your crap. You make people feel ugly. You make them feel fat so that they can go get your shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you're doing. You're bringing them down from the end. Like, you're just making them feel worthless and depressed. Magazines are doing the same damn thing. And I've said it, the story. I was working for Fox Television, San Antonio, and it was during college. And it was one of my internships. And so the promotions manager was explaining to me how they did their quarterly calendar and how they had money reserved for advertisers to come in and spend. And then they had money reserved for their own advertising, internal promotions, whether it be new TV shows, any type of new programming. So he's got this spreadsheet in front of me, and he's talking about this, and his name is Scott. And so he turns it around and he shows it to me, and he's like, every quarter what we spend is $666,000 of programming, and it's going to go. And I'm like, what was that? And he's like, what? I was like, so, and I turn it back around and I put my finger on the number and I put it in front of him. It's like, does that number ever change? Like, no, why? I mean, no. I'm like, and I put it back in front of, like, hold on. So that number every quarter is $666,000. Yeah, why? I'm like, you got to be kidding me. He's like, doesn't even. I said, are you at a church? And yeah, Bible. So you don't see 666? Oh yeah. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this guy did not see this, and he works in this every single day. It's literal witchcraft. I was doing the edits.
Yeah.
For Fox, and it was me and this other guy. His name was Chris too, and I'm in there for like 2 hours. Tonight at 7, tonight at 6, and it's like every show was like blood on the wall, and I'm like, holy shit! Like, when you're in it, like for like 3 hours, 2 hours of just doing edits, and I looked at Chris. I'm like, bro, this is like terrible. He's like, yeah, you know what? You got a good point. I was like, is there any family shows or like? It was Bewitched. It was Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Gargoyles. Like, every programming was crap. So God put me in a position early on stage. I was like, are you going to be in advertising? All right, Chris. I'll put you in advertising and show you what the world's really like. So I go behind the scenes, behind the veil, whatever. And I'm like, wow. He's slapping you across the face with shit content. And you don't even know it. You have no idea. And it wasn't until I was in the damn edit suite, I'm like, every damn thing is negative. It's this black magic, witchcraft, Hollywood. Yeah. And so that's where I want to get the word out that, you know, it's time for the people to rise up and take their power back. That let's live the life that God intended for us. And that's going to be active participation. It's going to be becoming warriors in a world full of crap. And even though you're going to get attacked and you're going to be judged and you're going to be ridiculed, I don't give a shit.
Mm-mm.
I'll talk about whatever I want, and no one can. I mean, they can say you believe in flat Earth. I just don't know where I live. I have no idea. I'm just saying it's okay to ask the question. What if? I don't know. I've never been to space. I didn't go on space shuttle. Did you?
Doesn't matter right now.
It
I mean,
doesn't.
Yeah. But see, to be able to say whatever somebody's thinking, that's what's on attack. Oh, you can't talk about that. Oh, you can't talk about that. Talk about whatever you want. If people are going to judge you, by all means, go ahead. But the problem is we're not having the conversations. And that's where, oh, don't talk about that. Talk about whatever you want. Don't talk about politics and religion. Why? That's what's creating the havoc that we have right now with the lockdowns. It's just, so yeah, we need to take our power back, but it's going to be, like what y'all said, it's going to be a process, and it's going to have to happen over time. But we need stepping stones. And that's where, hopefully, in this series, we'll start to paint the picture of what those stones look like, so that as we are moving out into the field, into the battlefield, that we're not just exposed to the world as these bullets are flying. We need to take out some artillery before we start to approach this battlefield, so that as we take ground back for God, it's done in a way where it's like almost an operation manual. Like it's an army that has to go out there, but we need to find out who the soldiers are first, get them all kind of corralled. All right, cool. You're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this. And then it's like, okay, great. Here's the master plan, guys. We're going to be doing this. And now who's with me? Who's going to come aboard this ship as you go into the waters, uncharted waters? It's going to be dangerous, but what's the alternative?
right.
If we don't do anything? What's going to happen to the world if we just sit on our asses and act as if someone else is going to do it for us? What's going to be the outcome? And as I end, this is where this is what we're trying to avoid. We're
It'd
trying
be
to
cataclysmic, to be honest. I mean, it
It's
really
gonna
will
be-
be.
It's going to be cataclysmic. It's going to be the descent of just this right here.
Mhm.
And we need to fight this current, because the whole world is sucking us down right now. And we need to be aware of that, because we need to make that cut. Whenever that, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to evolve, but we need to be focused and intent on surviving these waters, because everything in the world right now is trying to drag us down to the bottom. And I don't want to be in that realm. That's not where I want to spend my eternity. And so, but I think we covered some good topics today. I think y'all guys, y'all ladies, sorry, brought some really good points. And not only that, but some knowledge that isn't typically known and discussed. And so, moving forward, let's talk about the paranormal. Let's talk about the demonic. Let's talk about the good guys, that we're not all by ourselves fighting this dark fleet that we don't know what, to come, that we're not on our own. And I came to that realization maybe about 2 years ago, that there are also other players on the chessboard. But I think, for the most part, it was a good little discussion that we got some points out that hopefully are going to allow people to start doing some of their own research. And the thing is, nobody believes anything that we say, but at least go do your own research to know that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than what the TV or radio is going to tell you. But any final thoughts before we?
No, I think one important thing too. I keep getting it from Michael, because he's always said to me, know the enemy. That's like one of the most important things. You really have to know the enemy. You have to know what you're up against in order to understand your own strength in it, because they know our strength way better than a lot of us do. And there are people out there that are searching for answers. They're afraid because they don't have the certainty. They don't understand what their strength in it is. But I mean, Tanya and I can help, and we can all do this together, help people realize this is the path that you're walking into. This is why you're walking into it, because you are so much stronger than all of this. And we have what it takes in us already. We just got to remember it and recognize it and find it, and then tap into it and blast it, because it's powerful. and it's really fucking powerful.
Yeah.
So it's just a
And-
matter of helping people find it. That's all.
You agree? So yeah, no, I feel that moving forward, I'm kind of just excited to see how this unfolds as we start to kind of put the pieces together. Because I know, still, universally speaking, all the pieces of the puzzle are kind of like guys, and they're kind of interlocking. So now we're just kind of having to figure out how to put those pieces together in a way where it's going to make sense for the operation at hand, the whole taking back the world for what he wants. And so I'm excited. I want to thank both of you ladies for joining me and hanging out and having a little chit chat about the weird stuff. And I won't call it woo woo because I think that for me, I'm going to start calling that like the same as woke. I want to, what did we say? Just the supernatural of the behind the veil.
Yeah, it's like spiritual warfare, man.
It's just good versus evil.
Yeah.
Dark versus light. There's a method to their madness, and when you start to understand why they have that madness, then it's like for us, it's like, okay, we know what we're fighting for now and why it's so important. Because they're not going to quit. They're not going to be like, okay, we give up, you guys. All right, we'll stop bugging with you. It's like, no, it's just, they're going to go for all the marbles, and we need to be aware of that and start fighting back. So thanks so much for the Behind the Veil, first episode of Behind the Veil series. And it's going to get better and better, I'm sure.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. And yeah, I guess until next time, peace.
And love.
Remember, greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. So for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, rise, speak your mind, stand for what's right, and fight for the innocent, the weak, and the orphaned. The time has come for the people to reclaim their power. The world needs the warriors of righteousness. Men, defend your tribe. Heroes aren't only in the movies. They're on the streets, in our homes, and in the mirror. People, take your proper place in history and commit to building a legacy. This is our time. And until next time, peace.